as we spoke last week, Dale said that he considers that most of the bots to be finalized now, and the only two bots that really are being focused on now on balancing are Taz Kid and Chromia, which I think is a bit of a shame because I think there's a lot of room. I think Metal Hawk is decent as he is. A lot of people still use him, although he was a bit glitched. But I think there's some room for Cosmos and for Lightspeed to be improved. I really do. I don't think the quite S tier material. And we talked earlier about batches, and someone made a good point about there being duds in batches, and I think there's just a lot of average bots in this batch, and no bots that as a bot people are going to really chase. There's a lot of combiner pieces for cons. I think it's a must for cons, but we also need to have good bots. Just having a combiner piece is not enough. They need to be relevant in some way. And so Dale's trying to work behind the scenes and he's making a particular beeline for Tasmanian Kid and Chromia. Now, although that is decent, I'm kind of a bit worried that the rest of the bots are getting left behind and forgotten about. But Dale does sort of see Lightspeed and Metal Hawk as kind of signed off, with some work maybe to do on Cosmos, but very little. But the focus is on Tasmanian Kid and Chromia, so we're going to focus on them in today's content. So, looking at Tasmanian Kid and looking at the changes. So we've had a cost reduction. I think he said it's going to be 2 plus 1. I think the Omega Swipe was 2 plus 1. I think he's got mixed up maybe. But it has gone a lot cheaper. I remember one of them being quite expensive and one of them being really cheap to be able to spam. So Performance Swipe that deals 1,800 damage, gaining 5% half the rest of the battle. Targets that have been disabled by Alpha Strike will have their disabled time reset when hit. And Dale sort of said in the chat, he's like, I just want to clear up how you use these guys. And my point has always been that you do electrical damage. Now, for me, it used to stun, but they've got rid of the stun, it seems. But then disable targets. But I don't think it's working as intended because I've been using it and the defense is still hitting back. So I'm not sure if it's bugged. I don't think it's intentional, but it's supposed to disable them. So perform a swipe for 3 ability points that deals 911 electric damage per second and disable them for 12 seconds. So the idea is that Dale wants to try and add a timer to them. And we did talk about this. You know, we had a timer on the Chromia tower. Because when we did it originally, we said, like, you know, you would like a timer to see when it's going to, outlast and run out. And I think it's the same for this. Because you want to really get the most out of it. So you want to leave it until 11 seconds. And then you perform a swipe and gain some health for the rest of the battle. And targets that have been disabled by Alpha Swipe will have their disabled timer reset when hit. So I think it disables them for another 12 seconds, I think that means. So it extends it for 12 seconds. I think the time reset doesn't sound right, doesn't make sense. For me, reset means start again at 0, not carry on. Extended, I think is the right word. I think it's badly worded. If it's not badly worded, if you use this ability and this cancels it, then that makes no sense. Why would you want to do that? You won't want to cancel it. So I think the word reset is the key word there that needs clearing up. But the way I see it as working, as you use Alpha Swipe, it does damage, does like 10k damage over 12 seconds. And after 11 seconds, we did about 10k-ish damage. You want to then hit it with the Omega Swipe and you extend it for another 12 seconds, stunning them or disabling them. Not stunning, sorry. And gives you an extra bit of health as well and does an extra 1,800 damage. But doesn't say for how long. So I think that the whole description needs clearing up to be more clear exactly what it's going to be doing. Especially for someone like me that doesn't use the bot, hasn't used the bot for a long time, didn't like the bot when I first tested it. So I'm literally going off my knowledge from a year ago when I tested the bot extensively at the time, but a year ago, and then what I'm reading now on what I've tested. That's all I'm literally going off. So if I'm confused by it, I think it definitely needs clearing up. But let's take him into battle and see what changes have been done to him to make him relevant. Okay, so let's do Tasmanian Kid. So just to list some of the changes. So when we tested this, we talked about having a different range per 5-star, and it was very controversial whether you should have different ranges for different 5 stars. And we were like, yeah, but just something a bit different. Why not? So I don't think they'll like that. So we've changed that to it's going to be the same range regardless of 5-star level. So it's going to be the same range whether it's a 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, or a 5-star. The range is going to be the same. He's also reverted the range back to how it should have been. There's going to be an electric icon on electric damage soon. I think that's something around the clear up around stun and things like that. And it's going to be, I think there's going to be a stun icon when it's stunned and an electric damage icon, because not all electric stuns and not all stun is electric. I think they're going to clear that up, I think, behind the scenes. But let's drop Tasmanian Kid over here. So Alpha Strike. So we want to disable the targets, don't we, in an area? So let's just get close. So you can see the range is pretty decent for the time being. So let's use the Alpha Strike, disable them targets. So you see there that sort of like it's disabled one target but not the other. But you see the timer there is it's run out. Is it finished? I don't know. I'm going to use the Omega. And that has disabled them there. So let's use Alpha now in that area there. Using Alpha. That's going to... See, it's just hit that one. It's not hit anything else behind it. So it's... Let's use Alpha over there. Let's use Omega over there and get rid of these. There we go. I mean, obviously against max base, but I think the main problem with ability is that it hits in a line forwards. Now, if you're attacking a base where all the defenses are in a line perfectly in small chunks, then it's going to work well. But how often does that happen? You can see here that even attacking from that side on, defenses are very rarely in a line straight. They're in sort of clusters. So if it was area damage that it did, I think I'd be more convinced that I'm sat there going, yeah, it's not too bad. I think this was always sold as a sort of Cheetor alternative at range rather than close up, doing high damage in an area. And I don't think it quite reaches them heights. I think the changes Dale has made are alright, they're decent. Is he going to make it into a warbot? I'm not convinced. If it disables in an area, I'd be sold. I think that's pretty good because there's no counter disabling. So if a bot disables, there's no stun, there's no anti-stun cores, no anti-hack cores. It disables it. There's no anti-disable right now. And so there's no counter for that. So if you can disable defenses in an area, whether it's the MDS, whether it's a beam laser, whether it's a shock tower, it doesn't matter what it is. It disables it. It will do that for any defense. But am I going to start spamming this bot to take out areas? No. For me, make it AoE. I think it's a really, really good bot. I think it's probably the bot of the batch. Keep it in a line as it is now. I'm not really sold on it. So I think that's the change that needs to be made. Is make it an area rather than a line. And we'll go from there and we'll see. Next up is Chromia. So one big change to Chromia. And I want you guys to be the judge of this. On whether it's worthwhile or not. Whether it's a good change or whether it's a bad change. So, Chromia, as she is in the game right now, you drop the tower, and then the tower lasts, I think it was 20 seconds, something like that. 20 seconds, and it stuns for 20 seconds constantly. In the game right now as well, Chromia had a stun gun, and you could stun lock opponents. Now, I think the big thing was Dale wasn't impressed with stun locking bots. And I kind of get that it's frustrating when you're stun locked and you can't do anything. And so Dale's got in his head that we don't want to stun lock bots. And so what he's done is took that stun gun away from Chromia and made him like Bumblebee and the other scouts, where they do have a stun, but it doesn't stun continuously. It just stuns in between. So for me, that's a bit of a nerf, but I understand that it's something frustrating in the game. But on the flip side of that, I always say that it's a counter. We did bring out Rat Trap. So if you're struggling against the likes of Chromia and you want a combat to deal with that, then you can equip Rat Trap. with hack and EMP immunity. So there always was a solution. There always was a counter. So I don't think it's a huge deal to have a kind of stun lock. You've got to also remember that warriors are immune to stun as well. And so although the tower can be pesky against gunners and against jets, she's not that bad if you've got rat trap. She's not that bad if you've got warriors. And you've also got to think that once you've got your gunners with glitch on, they're out of range and they can literally just take the tower out. You can use smoke screen to take the tower out and it's not a big deal. So for me, yeah, she was difficult when leveling and come up against when you got one bot, but in a war team, not so much. So not only have they done that, but Dale's idea was that he's took the timer away from the shock tower. So it no longer lasts 20 seconds, it just lasts until you destroy it. So I don't mind that idea because it means you're using ability points to counter her. I don't mind that, and you can't just wait it out. But a problem being is that it's been changed that every 8 seconds it zaps an enemy for 4 seconds. So it stuns them for 4 seconds with electric damage, for 4 seconds, and then leaves them open to do whatever for 4 seconds. Now, because of that, they have increased the health of a tower to 50% of her HP, but her HP is only 27k. It's not that high. And so half of that at ability 11 is not that beneficial. So it kind of makes it easier to take the tower out. So because it doesn't really stun lock anymore, she doesn't stun lock anymore, it makes her easier to counter. Because it disables for 4 seconds and not the full amount of the tower, it makes it easier. So although the tower's lasting longer, it's actually made her easier to go up against. Now, for me, if this was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when Chromia was in every single outpost, I understand maybe looking at her and going, yeah, she's a bit of a problem. But now with all the new releases and counters for her, she's kind of come away from the meta and not become that sort of pesky bot anymore that we find outposts like, oh my god, it's Chromia. She's kind of fell right away. And so we're making a bot that's not quite the meta easier to counter, and I don't know why. I don't know why he's going down this route of making her a lot easier. I think in his mind, he's making her harder by making the tower not have a timer, but by making it only disable for 4 seconds out of 8, it's actually made it a lot easier to counter, and we'll show you that. But as part of the ability 11 as well, it also increases damage to 100% of her damage, but her damage is only 600. 80% of that is still only 500, so it's only like 100 damage a second. Again, that's nearly nothing. So you got to think that knockback, it knocks enemies back when destroyed. It's not a big deal. The fact that it's got extra health and damage, it's not a big deal. The fact that it stuns or disables for 4 seconds out of 8 makes it easier. And the fact that it lasts longer rather than a timer does make it harder. So you can see it's not been made that bit more difficult than it needs to be as a 5-star release. But we'll go up against them. We'll see how it works. So let's just put Lightspeed down, which is a warrior. So obviously he won't get stunned. And then we'll put some other bots behind and we'll see how it kind of works. So you can see here that the tower goes down. And you see there now the timer has gone. You can see that they're stunned now. So the bots are stunned. But you see now, look. So now I'm free to do whatever. Let's try and hack it. Let's see if that works. No, you can't hack the tower, sadly. But you can see that right now, look, I'm free to sort of do whatever. I'm free to hit the tower if I like. And damage. Look, 1 light speed hit and the tower's gone. So the tower is a lot easier to counter. Now, again, if you're a lower player, I kind of understand it being really pesky and really annoying, and I kind of understand a need for it maybe. But if you're not a lower player, a high level person, and you're looking at this 5-star batch thinking, do I want to chase this batch? Are there bots in here that are going to help me in war? Then on defense, which is what she was kind of designed for, the answer is no. She's probably less relevant than what she was, not more relevant. But let's take her on attack and let's see how she goes on attack and see how the tower lasts now. So let's try it on offense. We want the tower to last longer. The tower sort of died very quickly in past iterations. So the new iteration, let's see. So we put the tower down. You see there, it disables now. But you see there, the tower has still been destroyed really quickly because it only stuns to 4 out of 8. Now the tower still gets killed very quickly. Look, from long-range defenses. So the survivability of the tower has got worse. So on attack, she wasn't even part of the meta. She's got worse on attack. And for me, in terms of defense, she's got worse as well. So I don't think the changes that have been made to her are positive changes. The tower needs a huge increase in HP. Absolutely huge. And I think that it even needs to I say stun, but disable for 6 seconds out of 8. And needs a huge HP boost to even get close to being relevant for this 5-star batch. And it kind of worries me that I wasn't a big fan of Metal Hawk in the first place, and no changes have been made. I went for 5-star Lightspeed, got 5-star Lightspeed, and doesn't get nowhere near my war team, so I don't think he's good enough. You've got Cosmos and Mindwipe. When I did the review for Cosmos and Mindwipe, I actually said that this is not a war bot. This is good for maybe leveling and maybe help. He can go against Beachcomb, but can be really fiddly to sort of really home in on him with sharks around and combat, so you can misjudge it and waste ability points. So I don't think he's quite there. His targeting needs to be better. And then we're stuck with Tasmanian Kid, who have just said needs some changes to be better, and we've got Chromia, who's kind of gone backwards. So the batch for me is kind of a dud batch. For me at the moment anyway, the batch is, if you're a con and want combiner pieces, it's a must-have batch. But it's a must-have batch to get these bots and keep at level 1. Whether you're an Autobot in this game, and I'd say 80% of the players are Autobots, it's a batch that you could probably skip, apart from Lightspeed maybe for Computron. But it's not a must-have batch. And if we're judging the bots without combiner pieces just on merit of how useful they are in the game, it's definitely a batch to skip as it is right now. There is time, there's no sort of time frame where we're like, this has to be out by this time, which is a good thing, which means we've still got time to make changes. But I'm just a bit worried that some people in playtest are happy with these changes already. And for me, I just think that we're not pushing content as far as we need to and sort of accepting mediocre content when there's a lot better batches and a lot better content already out there. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Are you happy with the batch as it is right now? Could you see value in it? Are you a con? You're just happy that they're combiner pieces? Or do you want something better out of these bots? Let me know in the comments.